The Haunted Ball Church. A deep dive into the unseen forces. In the heart of England, nestled in a remote village, lies the infamous Ball Church, a place known for its chilling history, dark secrets, and an overwhelming atmosphere that sends shivers down the spine of anyone who dares to enter. This church, standing tall and isolated, has become one of the most haunted locations in the country. Over the centuries, countless stories of paranormal encounters have surrounded the church, including strange apparitions, unsettling sounds, and mysterious occurrences that have driven people away in fear. But perhaps the most terrifying tale is that of a nun spirit, which has haunted the church for over 600 years. The origins of the haunting. A love forbidden by the church. The story begins in the 14th century, during a time when Ball Church was not the ruin it is today, but rather a thriving religious site. The church was home to a number of nuns, each devoted to a life of faith and service. Among them was Sister Agnes, a young and beautiful nun, whose gentle heart and compassionate nature made her beloved by her fellow sisters. However, Agnes had a secret, a forbidden love that could never be allowed to flourish. She had fallen in love with a young monk named Thomas, who served at a nearby abbey. Their love was pure, but defied the vows of celibacy they had both taken. And in the eyes of the church, it was a grave sin. The affair between Sister Agnes and Thomas was kept hidden for months, but as their love deepened, it became impossible to keep their secret. The church authorities eventually caught wind of the illicit relationship, and the punishment was swift and unforgiving. Thomas was sentenced to death by hanging, while Agnes was condemned to a fate far worse. She was bricked alive within the walls of Ball Church, her life extinguished in the most horrific manner. The cruel death of the nun and the monk set the stage for the haunting that would follow. Some say the energy of the tragic events that unfolded within the church's walls created a rift between the physical world and the spirit realm. Over the years, the church became a place of death and despair, where the souls of the wronged lingered in torment. The disappearance of the nuns and the church's desolate state. As time passed, Ball Church became a place of fear and sorrow, its once thriving community abandoned by its inhabitants. The villagers told tales of the unnerving silence that filled the area, of shadows that would appear where there should have been none, and of whispers carried by the wind that spoke of Agnes's tortured soul. No one dared visit the church, and the surrounding land became known as a cursed place. Despite the rumors of hauntings, the church remained operational for some time, though it was always deserted and shrouded in an air of gloom. Over time, the building began to decay, and its once majestic spires crumbled. As the years passed, the church was largely forgotten, its walls barely standing, its history reduced to whispers in the wind. However, as with all haunted locations, it seems the darker the past, the stronger the presence of the spirits that linger. The Ball Church did not remain forgotten for long. In the late 19th century, a new family moved into the area and took residence in the nearby rectory, unaware of the history of the cursed church. They would soon come to learn that the church was far from abandoned, and the spirits within its walls were not at peace. The Smith family, the first to witness the hauntings. The Smith family, who moved into the rectory in 1885, had no idea that their new home would be the source of constant fear and terror. On the very first night, strange sounds began to fill the house, faint footsteps, whispers in the hallways, and the unmistakable sound of something scraping against the walls. Mrs. Smith, who was tidying up the rectory, found a skull hidden in one of the rooms. The discovery unsettled her, but she dismissed it, not realizing the horrifying connection it had to the past. As the days turned into weeks, the hauntings intensified. Mrs. Smith would often hear footsteps late at night, and sometimes the sounds of crying and faint wailing would echo through the empty rooms. One night, she saw a figure, a woman dressed in a nun's habit, standing at the foot of her bed. But when she blinked, the figure vanished, leaving her trembling with fear. The children of the Smith family were particularly affected. They spoke of seeing a woman in white, with no feet, floating through the halls of the church at night. They described her as being headless and ghostly, and would often wake up screaming in the middle of the night, unable to escape the terrifying visions that haunted them. When Reverend Henry, who had taken over the church in the late 1800s, was told about the sightings, he dismissed them as the product of children's imagination. But the Smiths were not the only ones who experienced these supernatural events. Over the next few decades, numerous other families who moved into the area or came to visit reported similar encounters. The legacy of Ball Church and the enduring fear. Even today, people continue to speak of Ball Church and the spirits that haunted. Many claim to have seen the ghostly figure of Agnes wandering the grounds at night, her form flickering in the moonlight. Others have reported hearing faint cries and whispers coming from the church. And some have even gone so far as to claim that the nun's spirit still tries to communicate with the living, warning them of the curse that has never been lifted. In recent years, paranormal teams and ghost hunters have returned to the church to investigate, but few have come back with any clear answers. The place has become a symbol of the dangers of venturing into the unknown, and a stark reminder that some spirits cannot rest until they have been properly acknowledged or avenged. As for the nun, Agnes, her soul remains trapped in the place where she suffered and died. Her love, her betrayal, and her tragic fate have bound her to the church forever. And as long as Ball Church stands, so too will her haunting presence, waiting for the next visitor to cross its threshold, unaware of the horrors that await.